What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is August 21st, 2024, and it's 4:02 in the afternoon. The market is closed, thankfully. Today's title is I Have No Words. And the reason it is that title is because, well, before lunchtime today, after all of the crazy movement we saw that seemingly came out of nowhere for no good reason, unless you count jobs numbers being off by 1 million, being a reason that came at a very random time. The market was misbehaving big time today. Took 3 trades of my own. The first one was a very small win. The second one, thankfully, was a break-even trade. And the third one was what made my day. Now, I want to first say that I lost to emotions today, even though I won financially in my trading. But if you were in the room, you know what I'm talking about. Today, we were talking about how I was $250 away from my daily goal. And I was also saying at the same time how uncomfortable I am with the chart. And I'll explain the points that I was seeing that made me uncomfortable. Yet I still took one more trade. So it just goes to show you that we constantly put ourselves as traders in risky situations, right? For one reason or another. For me, I was chasing a number, even though I was doing so in a time where the chart was not something I would normally want to touch. So, you know, you're never going to be able to shake the emotional side of trading, in my opinion. You just gotta do the best you can and hope that the emotions stay out of your trade decision making, which today was not the case for me. But let's go ahead and talk about what we were seeing and what we did. Sorry in advance if my dogs are barking, you can hear them. Pre-market was relatively tight range. We had no reports this morning. We were going to get FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we had job number revisions that were supposed to come out at 10 o'clock, I believe. Now, normally, revisions, unless they're wildly out of the norm, wouldn't move the market a lot. And they would normally come at the time that they were supposed to. And I'm being told that they came at a random time. So I don't know if that's what caused the moves that we saw later in the day, or if the minutes had anything to do with it, or what was going on. I just, who knows? But at any rate, pre-market was relatively tight. We were going into the open. I told everybody, guys, I got no idea. I don't have any inkling to believe that we are going to move up or down. We got to wait for the right reason to take a good trade. Like today, we had to be patient. I said, I am going to put call and put scenarios on the chart, but just know that you don't want to jump into something with no catalyst unless there's good reason to do it. So for the morning, we had a put scenario, which was going to be a breach of 559.55, and we'd be hoping that it would go down to 559.34. Not a big trade. It's only a 20-cent move. So very aggressive. And I told everybody as I put that there, I won't be taking that trade, just like I probably won't be taking the calls unless I see something elsewhere, i.e. the Qs or ADD, that make me feel comfortable in doing so. So I did not try and take it here. I did not try and take it here. But also, more importantly, at 9:34, you had Qs sitting on a support anyway. So we wouldn't have taken the put scenario anyhow because Qs were sitting on support. At the time, they were trying to move down. Very quickly started putting in higher lows. We were able to draw an upward trend line. And this is where things started to be a little weird because ADD was aggressively selling off. Qs were going up. Now, that's not unnormal. That's not unusual. We see that all the time. What is unusual is that later in the day, Qs were trending down while SPY was moving sideways and or going up. This is where I took my second trade and started to get really uncomfortable. It was in this area here. But I'll show you guys as we go. But at any rate, we were trying to trust the chart. I said, guys, we're putting in higher lows and higher highs on SPY. We're putting in higher lows and higher highs on Qs. As the Qs broke through this resistance and created a new one, I said, now is the time to consider buying puts. What way? Calls. Which way are we trending? I ask these questions to myself, just like I ask them to our group. Guys, which way are we trending? Everybody says up. Which should we be looking to buy? Everybody says calls. Okay, when should we be looking to buy these calls? Everybody says on pullbacks to resistance. Great. You all know what you're supposed to do to increase your odds of winning. Well, we get a pullback here to the trend line on the Qs. Okay, now all we were aiming for at first was a move back up to this resistance. And if we got through that, we were expecting it to continue up to the next resistance. Okay, so we bought the pullback here. And as Qs made it up to that resistance at 957, we were able to get out of this trade because normally, we did have people get out when we touched it, but we closed above this line of support, held it there, and we stayed in the trade looking for the next one up. Qs were still trending up. They never broke their trend line until they're all the way up here. So the reason we stayed in the trade is because we liked what the Qs were doing. So we stayed in, we got in on a pullback. We did dip below our entry point for just a second, not by much, but the Qs, we had faith in the Qs. We're still trending up. We held it. We got to the next resistance. Now this one here, SPY hit the pink line. The pink line is the stink line. I was not in it for this. This win right here was not a big win. For me, it was only a 4%, 3.8% win. Very, very small trade. It left me not barely, halfway to my $500 daily goal. Okay. It was an uncomfortable trade because I'm watching the Qs trend up. I don't want to trade against the Qs. And, SPY wasn't moving up at the same pace, especially while you're looking at ADD trending down. That's when Qs are moving up and ADD is moving down, SPY is going to be more sideways than up or down. I should have kept that in mind, but we got into a trade anyway, and that's what happened. Now, this was another, why is this here? This is not supposed to be here. Yes, it is. This is when I took my second trade. This is the one I broke even on. Buying pullbacks. We were aiming for the pullback to the trend line here. And on Qs, we were pulling back. It's just after a 10 o'clock report. We held resistance, or we held support, right? On the orange line, old resistance, new support. Qs kept moving up. So we were hoping the Qs were going to run up and get to their next line up. They got close enough, but SPY was struggling. ADD was starting to win now and not the Qs. So we're holding on to this. Qs were staying up. We stayed in the trade. And once again, when it was struggling to get through this SPY resistance, even though the Qs were moving up, I told everybody here, I said, guys, this move is not happening like I hoped it would. You had the opportunity to get out at one point for decent money. You also could have stopped out with a small loss. We've moved back up to where you can get out with a small win. If you don't feel comfortable in the trade, consider taking what it's willing to give you now, because the move that we hoped was going to happen is just not happening. I don't feel comfortable holding my trades for several minutes anymore because of things like this, and things like this, and things like this, and things like this, and this, and this, and you see it all day long. We get these crazy moves out of nowhere. And I got no words for this. I don't know how to explain why this happens, right? Obviously, it's a whole bunch of selling taking place. Well, why? Couldn't find any news events. Was this when they released the job revision numbers of minus 1 million? Or was this when they released the jobs number? Okay. At 2 o'clock, we didn't have much of anything going on, right? So we got FOMC minutes minutes at 2 o'clock. We pop up, we come right back down to where we were. Was there no surprises in the minutes? Now, I wasn't expecting a big move, although we did have people in calls here and we did pick out where we thought it was going to go. So that worked out. But still, these types of things are what make me nervous in trying to hold my trades longer, right? And I think a lot of you guys probably fall victim to the same thing. Nice uptrending trend. All of a sudden it stops. Okay, fine. Maybe it's consolidating. Maybe it breaks up. Maybe it breaks down. But you wouldn't expect the breakdown to be this violent. So fortunately, we put stops. For me, it was at break even, so that if we did pull back again to a point where it was near our entry point, we get out with no loss or minimal damage. And then 2 minutes after we get stopped out, you have this crazy move to the downside, which when you look at, now I wouldn't have played this, but it's at this time that the Qs finally broke their uptrend line. Okay. They had room to go between where this candle stopped and their next support. So anybody who wanted to play the put line got to do that. I did not take this trade, but it's the first time that the Qs were breaking their trend line while we were crossing the put line. So we did have some people take this trade. Some people got in a little earlier on the trade because they recognized we were struggling to move up in lower highs and took it early. Good for you. All right. And then immediately we bounced right back up to where we were. Now, this is where I started to get really uncomfortable. So I have one trade here. I'm up 250. I have another trade here. Nothing. I lost contract fees. Okay. Then we get to this section. Now, at this point, between 1019 and 1030, we'll call it, on the Qs, look what the Qs are doing. They're trending down. I don't trade against the Qs, but as we are moving down, right, and on SPY or on ADD, we're moving up. It's very rare that ADD is strong enough to move SPY when Qs are moving in the opposite direction. But it was happening. And I'm watching it happen at a relatively aggressive pace. And it felt like Qs had very little influence on SPY here. It was keeping SPY from running up. But usually the Qs are strong enough to make SPY slowly trend down even when ADD is going up. I kept telling everybody in our community, guys, I'm not comfortable to buy anything here. And I know that Qs are trending down, but I would not buy puts. You know I don't trade against the Qs, but I'm telling you right now, something doesn't feel right. Something's just not mathing. Please be cognizant of what you're doing. We're watching Qs drop. We're watching ADD go up. SPY is moving sideways. I do not feel good about calls, especially how quickly we recovered from this move down and came right back to where we were before. We just got right back into the same consolidation. This is where I was also losing to my emotions, saying, man, I feel like I want to buy calls, but I can't trade against the Qs, but I think the buyers are going to win this one. If you were in my room, you heard me talking about this through all of this here. I didn't get into puts, even though Qs were going down. I felt calls were going to be more the win. I didn't get into calls either because the Qs were going down. But ultimately, for whatever reason, we get this nasty break to the upside. We pull back to support. As we're pulling back, we got out of all the range we were stuck in. Qs were pulling back to the pink line. ADD was still on its rocket ship to the upside. Told everybody, guys, we're pulling back to support on Qs and ADD. I'm taking this. Now, I got into this trade a little bit late, got in on the next candle. And if you got in on support, we were first aiming for this resistance high of day. Told everybody, guys, if Qs hold support right here, it's running to 484. Set it. Clear as day. Bunch of people took the trade way down here. I got in a little late, so I only caught about 24% of that move. Fortunately, for my own sanity, it got me to my daily goal, well past it for that matter. But the fact of the matter is, I traded at a time where I was very uncertain about what I was seeing and versus how I felt about what I was seeing. And it's just a reminder to tell you that no matter how long you do this or how comfortable you are with your strategy, there's going to be days where you're going to be a ball of emotions. You're going to be wondering if you should do this or do that. And after seeing these crazy sporadic moves and the market not doing what we like to see it do based on normal days, it makes it very uncomfortable. It's better to walk away. The majority of the people in my community were telling me, Jimmy, don't risk it. Just keep the smaller profit that you got. You don't need to make the extra money. Everything's good. And I did it anyway, but I did it at a time that made sense to me. So did a bunch of other people. So we were able to capitalize on a technical move that we weren't sure technicals were going to work, right? Because shortly after that, we get all the way up here, Q's nowhere near a resistance, SPY nowhere near a resistance, and comes crashing down. A lot of people FOMO'd into this move. I wasn't recommending any trades during that, but as we pulled back to resistance, again at 1058, I told everybody, guys, Q's, SPY, pulling back to resistance. We'd be aiming for the low of day support on both charts, whichever one comes first. Take your profits when we get there. At 1101, we held there. We got right down to the same support that stopped that crazy move down. That right there was a beautiful trade. Was not in it, but it worked exactly how we would expect it to. Here's another one. As we were moving up, people who missed this or this, I told them, guys, I would not buy puts on the pullback this time. Why not, Jimmy? Because this is a higher low. And if you want to see that a little bit more clearly, look at that. This is a line chart. Okay, it doesn't count the wicks. It's only paying attention to the bodies. Higher low. I saw that when we were putting these candles down. I said, guys, I wouldn't buy puts here. This thing is going to break up. Now, I wasn't suggesting calls, but I was trying to keep people out of puts. And thankfully, there was a handful of people that were about to buy puts there that didn't. We did have one guy buy calls here, and he got paid handsomely for that. He ran it right back up to the resistance to our left. Of course, we were hoping we'd make it all the way up to this resistance by the time we got this high. But once you get above these lines, make your new supports your stop losses, okay? And then we start grinding slowly down sideways-ish, and then we sell off again for whatever reason, and make it all the way down through several supports and stopping at this one. All these lines were here at 8:30 this morning, so it's not like, we cut through some of them like butter, but as we always say, we don't know which one's going to be the last one that holds and the last one that folds. And it was shortly after this, actually I missed this whole move down because I left for lunch at 12:09, I think, 12:09, 12:10. So no trades here that we took. It comes moving back up while I'm at lunch. I come back from lunch during this sideways chop and told everybody, we were talking to somebody, and I verified with Lisa if she wanted to play puts. Jimmy, what would you need to see in order to play puts? I said, well, this was after this here. I said, first of all, actually, we had this conversation during this time. So let me get before that. We were looking for calls. People wanted to play calls. Jimmy, is this an orange box scenario? We trended up to this consolidation. Doesn't it normally break up? Statistically, yes, it does. But you want to make sure we clear this resistance right here. We want to make sure we're above that. Awesome. That happens at 151. Now, these are late day trades, something I don't do, but we're just trying to trade the technicals. And then on the Qs, we got above a level of resistance at 151, which was this orange line right here. Okay, resistance, resistance, resistance. Guys, if both of those are above that, I believe the Qs are going to make a run for 482.81. Nice move up. Okay, that was going to put SPY at least to the yellow line. Well, as luck would have it, we got above those resistances on both. We held them as support. Took a few minutes, but ultimately, massive move up. No reason why. I don't know why. It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it was the 2 o'clock candle, but we got to where we wanted to go. Pulls back. Same supports holding. Now, this is where we're talking about puts. Lisa asked me, and Lisa, you're out there. I know you're watching this. Where would you buy puts? I said, well, an aggressive entry would be if we can get below this support here on SPY at 560.35, we'd be aiming for the blue line down. Otherwise, we'd like to get a candle close below this blue line at 560, and we'd be aiming for 559.68. So again, not a huge move, 30-cent move down, but it would be counter trend trading because technically we were, for the most part, trending up at this point in the day. Well, Qs and SPY broke this line, which is what we needed to get below to take puts. And it did exactly what we would want it to do. And it did it in relatively quick order. And then we got below support here on the Qs. We were talking about getting into puts there. It ran right down to and through the next line, But again, this late in the day, you don't want to hold these trades for very long. You need these things to play out quickly. So here was your entry on this one, exit here. If you held longer, you got to the next line. Entry on the one just before that was here because we broke support and ran right down to the next support. And then McQuestion, another member in our community, we like to play closing price guess. And he had guessed quite a while prior to all this that we were going to close at 560.99. But boy, he was very close, very close. And Tinker Swing, for you who don't know what that is the new name for think or swim. If you're Spanish and you talk to Siri and you say think or swim with your accent, it will type out Tinker Swim, Tinker Swing. Sorry. Gorgeous, you know I love you, my friend. But at any rate, that's the end of this video, guys. If you got any useful information out of this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, we'd love to have you. Your first week is completely free. Come in, listen. Maybe there's some helpful information in there for you. If there's not, thanks for stopping by. If there is, consider becoming a paying member. You don't have to be a paying member to stay there, but you do get some benefits for doing so. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you all had a fantastic day today, despite this crazy chart. And till tomorrow, I love you guys. See you.